This is Wychwood, the neighborhood we'll be discussing in this video. The map shown here generally outlines the area. The light blue means rich or well off financially, although not as rich as another area that we're going to be discussing, which is an attraction in and of itself. The yellow means upper middle class to well off, although if you look a bit you'll find some rich homes. What you see in orange is more like middle class, working class to upper middle class to be more precise. The red is lower income, although there's not really any low income areas in this neighborhood. Pink is schools, and purple is generally anything else that's not green, except most of the time it's commercial. There's probably a few buildings that crept into colors that don't really suit them, since it's kind of hard to tell. Anyhow, let's start up in the northwestern portion of the neighborhood and move from there. Over here, in the northwestern corner of the neighborhood, sits Oakwood Collegiate, which is a high school. The light blue areas you see around it are very nice areas, great for families. Those areas are generally quite affluent. The homes here are generally very expensive. One factor that makes the area really nice is that if you go just north to the street that makes up the northern border, which is St. Clair, you reach lovely, charming shops and restaurants, among other things. This strip, which also provides easily accessible transit in the form of streetcars, is a lovely place to shop or grab a bite to eat, and certainly is a bonus and an element to the excellent quality of life. As you can likely see, the areas stay pretty nice pretty much the whole way through, at least and especially most everywhere north of Davenport, which is this windy road. Out of that, though, an area that's just straight up a cut above the rest is this area in dark green, Wychwood Park, dotted with many magnificent, enormous homes and a few smaller ones as well. Originally founded as an artist enclave, this area is now one of the wealthiest and most exclusive places you could be in the whole city. Engulfed in so much greenery it hardly feels as though it's on the grid. And with rustic, windy roads that aren't even on Google Maps, this is one of the first and only places in Ontario to be granted heritage status. For goodness sakes, there's literally even a heritage building code of sorts that you have to follow. One house there didn't, and it made some people angry, apparently. If you want to buy a home here, it will set you back probably anywhere from $2 to $8 million. If you're going to splash that kind of money, though, this is a great place to do it. Since not only is it tranquil and enchanting, it's also within a very reasonable distance from many notable areas in the city, the main one being downtown, where the most is concentrated. How much better than that can you get, am I right? Oh yeah, and the place has a frickin' tennis court and pond to boot. Homes in the rich, well-off areas to the west can probably occasionally go for as high as $4 million. And most of the homes in the yellow areas could probably go for around $1.3 million or more, especially the further south you go towards Wychwood Park, or west towards Hillcrest Park. That's how expensive Toronto's housing market is. Speaking of Hillcrest Park, the blue areas around there are also, no surprise, very expensive, partially to do with how nice Hillcrest Park is. Hillcrest is safe and clean, and with much to do. Hillcrest is a great park to relax in, and have a picnic, among other things. All while the trees, as well as making for good viewing, partially shelter those in the park from any exposure to the noise of Christie, the decently large street just east, as well as the aforementioned Davenport, the main street just below to the south. Moving on now, just west of Hillcrest Park, is the School of Winona Drive, which is supposedly very good. Another very good school is Hillcrest School, to the east, right along Bathurst Street, which acts as the eastern border. This school actually isn't in the neighborhood boundaries, technically. It's actually just east over in the neighborhood of Castleloma. Although functionally, it's like exactly the same. Coming back to Bathurst now, Bathurst might just be the biggest street that runs through the neighborhood. Although St. Clair is also very major. This street just off of Bathurst and St. Clair, Vaughan Road, also has nice shops similar to St. Clair. Overall though, relative to the neighborhood, along Vaughan sort of has a reputation for being somewhat gritty. More so as you go northwest along the road though, beyond Wychwood. Nevertheless, this area might be one of the grittier areas of the neighborhood, perhaps tied with around Oakwood and St. Clair, and maybe the southern border of Wychwood near the train tracks, which we'll touch on in a bit. None of these areas are actually bad, though. They're just mainly dense and contrasting in comparison to the nice residential streets. If you venture a little bit south of Vaughan on Bathurst, you'll reach the decently wealthy areas of central East Wychwood in and around Burnside Drive, right near Wychwood Park. Just south of Burnside is the Toll Keepers Park, which consists of a little bit of green space and a neat historic house right by the road, which is somewhat of an attraction in itself. In the southeast corner of the neighborhood, that transit industrial place is kind of hard to miss. Now, this is the largest transit facility in the whole city, everyone. This is where a large percentage of the maintenance is done for one of the largest transit systems on the continent, the TTC, which stands for the Toronto Transit Commission. That area used to be up here, in the Wychwood Barnes Park, but as the transit system expanded, it became too disruptive and small, so they moved it. Nowadays, Wychwood Barnes is a very nice, charming park. Just west of the park is the aforementioned street of Christie Street, and a few homes and other things along there. Just south of the park is a decently rich area just west of Wychwood Park, along Christie, similar to Burnside, kind of. Down along Davenport Road is generally more dense and with less money. This goes on south for the most part until you reach the train tracks. All the places in orange. However, if you want to place there now, you'll have to have a lot of money because, it's Toronto.